Hi guys and welcome to the video. So this is the end of season 3 of the Orville, and here's me hoping it's not the end of the Orville, because I think the Orville desperately deserves to continue. Now, I'm going to be going into some spoilers for this episode, so this is your spoiler warning. If you don't want to know what happens, I've given you plenty of warning. The spoilers are coming. So this episode rounds off the season quite neatly. Does it round off the series quite neatly in case they don't return? It does half a job in my opinion. It's not a bad episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and there were some real great moments. We have certain familiar faces returning. I'll get to that in just a little bit. This episode had a few different stories running parallel with one another. We have a revisit to one of the previous season's episodes, the social media episode where they go to the planet and it's much like Earth and people getting upvoted and downvoted. If you've seen the Orville, you'll know which one I'm talking about. The young lady who was in that episode, she returns in this episode. She seeks asylum with the Orville because things on her planet have not gotten better. They've gotten worse. She wants to get out of there. She wants to leave and join the Orville and join the galaxy and what have you. So there's a bit of education for her, which Grayson takes care of throughout the episode. That all sort of leads to her wanting to take the technology, the schematics, everything back to her own planet, and she's very effectively shown why that's a very bad idea. There's sort of a running theme in that throughout the episode. We also have a more or less inevitable proposal from Isaac to Dr. Finn, and the episode progresses that story to their eventual marriage. There are some really comical moments, some very funny scenes between Lamar and Finn. A very, very funny scene between Lamar and Finn because Isaac is obviously very impressionable, and some bad advice from Lamar leads to some quite comical consequences and an eventual telling off by Finn, very public telling off by Finn, which I thought was really, really clever. You have Bortus and Clyden. They have renewed their wedding vows, I suppose, so they have to go through a Moclan ceremony to do so, which involves them both getting practically butt naked and running through the forest after one another, and it's very comical. Some very awkward scenes towards the end of that particular segment of the episode. There were some scenes where Isaac's choosing his best man, and he chooses Gordon, of course, because Gordon's great at social events and public speaking and whatnot. He's a very funny individual. But Bortus completely, best man blocks him. It's incredibly comical. Isaac then chooses Bortus and says, yeah, that's fine. And then it leads to the worst possible stag night ever, where Bortus he becomes an Elvis impersonator and sings one of Elvis's songs in much in the same style as he did in one of the previous episodes where he sang in front of the crew. I believe that was the Topper episode. He gives the speech at the wedding, and it's possibly the worst speech ever, and thankfully Isaac manages to get Gordon to save the day on that one. We also see the return, and big spoiler coming, we have Halston Sage back. She came back as Alara for the wedding, and it was great to see her. I wasn't expecting that at all. It was a big surprise to me. She pops it in, and it felt right for her to be back there. She came back at the end of season 2, if I'm not too much mistaken, in the alternate timeline episode with Kelly and the time travel and all of that. So it was nice to see her come back one more time as well. Now, this episode is not a particularly complex episode, although there are a lot of storylines that run in the episode. It's not massively complex. It's one that's very well written for the type of episode it is, and it's a great way to close off a great season. However, it does leave that bittersweet taste in your mouth with the fact that the Orville is essentially done until we get word of renewal. This season has been by far the best season of television, certainly sci-fi television, that I've seen in a long time, coming from the perspective of a Trek fan. Now, I have compared this to Star Trek. It's hard not to, and I've said this in previous videos, but the Orville has become its own entity. And I said to my wife after I watched the episode that this may actually be my new favourite show. As controversial as that opinion may be, that is genuinely how this season has made me feel. Although it has lost the comedy element, which again, it pulled back very nicely. In this episode, there was a lot of comedy moments, some real laugh out loud moments, some moments that made you smile. There was still the serious undertone of the episode with regards to societies not being ready for technologies that are way beyond their understanding and how they can be used. And on that point, the lesson for the girl, I will remember her name by the time I made this video. The lesson for her was quite brutal, really. She was taken to the simulator. She attempts to take some technology back to her planet once she's changed her mind. And she feels that it's selfish for her to stay. She wants to help her people. And she tries to smuggle off some schematics of advanced technology, and she's caught. And Grayson takes her to the simulator and shows her civilization that the very early Union decided to try and help because they were naive and they didn't understand the consequences. And within 5 years, that entire civilization decimated itself with war. There was another way I thought that they could go with that. To me, it would have made far much more sense for them to have wiped themselves out because they didn't understand the technology. There's been a big part of Star Trek lore is that societies are not ready for certain technologies, but they did take a very interesting approach with that, which, again, I wasn't expecting. It sort of subverted my expectations of that, where it's a simple case of they gave the technology, they understood the technology, but the society collapsed because certain people wanted the technology to keep it to themselves, and it caused wars and conflicts, and they essentially wiped themselves out. So we do have a new, I wouldn't say addition to the crew because she doesn't join the crew, but she's certainly there. She does choose to stay in the end. The scenes between Bortus and Clyden is, in my opinion, whether or not he's just thankful to have Bortus back, it feels very forced. It feels like he's being over the top towards Bortus, always, supporting him through everything and clapping when he does the Elvis impersonation, which I thought was a little bit cringe-inducing. It feels slightly off. Something feels off about them being back together. Clyden's clearly changed, but I don't know to what degree. So it'll be interesting if there is a season 4 to see where they go with that. Some people say he's a Moclan spy, and he's there to spy, but I don't see what purpose or what end that will bring. And I can't believe I almost forgot to mention this. Again, huge spoiler, but this is what we were expecting. All of these episodes since we've been expecting that damn sandwich to come back, and it does come back. It does make Gordon happy because he's been subverted by Bortus to be Isaac's best man, and he's really annoyed and pissed off, and boom, the sandwich appears. And I knew it was going to happen. I knew that was going to happen. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. What a fantastic addition, and what a nice closure to that question of when the sandwich will return. And it just pops in, and he's happy to see it, and he goes, "Oh, I was right. That has really made my day," and it kind of made my day as well. So this episode was great. I absolutely loved it, and this season of the Orville has been fantastic. There's only a few episodes where I thought they were slightly subpar and a bit substandard. For the most part, this season has been a joy to watch, and such a stark contrast to all of the new Treks that came out this year and the end of last year. It's such a stark contrast, and it's so telling because when you look at 3 different series of Star Trek, 3 different seasons, 3 different shows, and none of them left me feeling good at the end of watching them. They made me feel like crap. While the Orville is miles different than that. Certainly this season, the Orville's always given me cause to have a smile and a laugh, but it did something so much more this season for me. It showed me great storytelling again. It showed me real impact, real emotional drama, which is fair. It's good to have it in the episodes as long as it's not over the top. A lot of the Orville crew, they'll cry if there's something to cry about. They won't do a Space Jesus and just cry because they stubbed their toe on the bloody radiator or something like that. it's a much more mature show, and it shows. You've got all these veterans, all these Star Trek veterans writing these episodes, and it shows because the grown-ups have taken back some control from the dark nihilistic teenagers that seem to be writing Star Trek. Anyway, that's just a little bit of a rant. If you know my channel, if you've watched my channel, you know exactly how I feel about New Trek and all its stupidity and its utter childish, rank, arrogant writing. But the Orville seems to be so much better, in my opinion, and so much deeper. Very cheery and good. You know, its heart is in the right place. It leaves you with good, positive feelings. And if it doesn't do that for you, then that's absolutely fine. Each to their own. If New Trek is your thing, by all means go and enjoy it if that's what you enjoy. But for me, the Orville is so much better, and the Orville needs renewing for another season. Now, it could suffer. It could suffer as a result. We have had 3 pretty solid seasons, and we all know the Firefly argument. If Firefly had been allowed to continue and it wasn't cancelled in the first season, then it could have gotten really bad and terrible, and it could have suffered the Lost syndrome. But I believe that the writers can do it for this show. I believe that they can tell decent stories. And this season could be one to end on a high note, but it also could be one that shows the wasted potential that a 4th season could have if missed. So that's the end of my review for the Orville season 3. This is the end of a long 10 weeks of just pure, decent, story-driven science fiction. Just on another note, if you're looking for something Orville related, I very recently did a video where I drew Captain Mercer. I'll put a card up here, and I'll put a card up at the end. You can find it on my channel. It's titled Drawing Seth MacFarlane's Captain Mercer. So if you're interested in that sort of thing, go and give it a watch, and let me know your thoughts on it. And also let me know your thoughts on this episode, your thoughts on this season. And thank you so much for joining me throughout the last 10 weeks for the Orville. It's been an absolute pleasure doing these videos. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for coming with me on this journey. And I will see you in my next video. Until then, thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye for now. Stop the violence of the war in my head. Time's the healer, the eraser of all done and said. And as I fall back to my shelter, I know I'll only find peace in your smile.